All right, guys, who's the most evil or meanest protagonist that you've ever rooted for?
I had to think about this one for about. I don't think I came up with a very satisfying answer.
Gene Tierney in Leave Her to Heaven. She does these incredibly soulless, like inhuman, evil things in the film, and yet the whole time I'm rooting for her. Like go, push that baby down the stairs. Like it's that kind of like level of thing. And I think the film is disapproving of her yet, but it's Gene Tierney, and so she's just so like charismatic and
A lot of the movies that I was thinking of are kind of popcorn thrillers. Like, it's pretty rare that I find myself rooting for a villain in a movie where like the villain is really kind of that I'm really supposed to feel bad about the villain. How can you not root for like Darth Vader at certain times?
Yeah.
How can you not root for Hannibal Lecter?
I'm trying to think of somebody that because usually, like what you said, characters that are evil are like the bad guy, which is not quite the same as being evil.
That's true.
I'm trying to think of a character that I actually find abhorrent that I still was rooting for, and I'm imagining it's probably in a movie where I just hated the other characters more, so much more that I just wanted
the monster in Cloverfield.
Maybe
to kill the obnoxious idiots.
Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe I'm not really rooting for him, but Albert Brooks in Modern Romance. He's a terrible, horrible
he is
person.
an awful guy.
Such a terrible person, so despicable and so selfish and so self-involved. But he's the lead character, and
he and Woody Allen are pretty obnoxious in a lot of their films.
Yeah, but I think
and
Woody
you
Allen
still want them to find love or whatever it is they're looking for.
Yeah, I actually think of Albert Brooks as sort of like the dark side of Woody Allen, because like in Woody Allen films he's usually very neurotic and self-involved, but at the end he wants you to be to love him. He's a lovable character, but Albert Brooks is just not lovable at all. He's just a bundle of neuroses without any redeeming factor whatsoever.
Yeah, the depressive to Woody's manic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even just like film noir characters. I find a lot of the times there's like a shade of gray. Fred MacMurray in Double Indemnity. You kind of want him to sort of get away with it.
I also kind of want Barbara Stanwyck to get away with it too.
I do too. Yeah.
Anthony Perkins.
Well, if your villain is the protagonist, then what else do you have? Like, nobody's gonna watch that movie and be rooting for Keys, right? Through the whole movie, because what else would you like?
Barbara Stanwyck is not the protagonist.
You're not gonna. That's true.
I mean, Fred MacMurray's character is.
But it's hard for me to imagine anybody watching that movie and sitting there and going, man, I sure hope Barbara Stanwyck gets caught. I really want
I think there's supposed to be a frisson of excitement when she gets shot. Oh, sorry for the spoiler alert.
Jeez.
Well,
Sled is called.
Been waiting like 70
what
years.
What is that movie? Yeah, like 70 years old if you haven't seen it by now.
Yeah. I was rooting for worse things to happen in W, the George W. Bush biopic. Like I wanted something more horrible to happen in it to be more interesting. Because it was such a weirdly mundane film about George W. Bush. Like I wanted him to be worse, and not like in a caricature way. I just give me.
But that's not when you're talking about like where you're not actually identifying with the character or the evilness or whatever. You're kind of just sort of appreciating its sort of narrative value and making the film interesting. Or the lack of.
Right. What about Anton Chigurh? Are you supposed to root for him?
I don't think you're really supposed to, but you're not supposed to root against him.
Well, because it's kind of a shooting gallery in that movie, No Country for Old Men, and so you kind of want him to win the game.
Yeah.
Which spoiler alert.
At the very least,
nobody's getting through that.
At the very least, you don't want him to leave the movie.
Yeah. But
Because people do get knocked off in that movie, like off screen, like main characters.
It's true.
Where you're just like, wow, that seemed really cold considering I've invested all this time in this character. And
that's interesting.
If he left the movie in that way, I would have been like, well.
I felt something like that when I saw Downfall, the first German film to be made specifically about Hitler, I think, since World War II. They get through the whole movie and they're like, they kind of want to humanize Hitler and they kind of are not cool with that, and then they kind of want to do it. And they get to the suicide scene and they like tactfully move the camera away when he shoots himself. Like, can you let me watch him blow his brains out, please? I don't like the way that Tarantino handled that in Inglourious Basterds for a lot of reasons, but I would have appreciated in Downfall to just give me a squib, like let me see the guy off and say it's Hitler. I want to see it through to its conclusion. You made me identify with
Travis Bickle.
I never identified with him.
You get to see him blow his.
No.
Well, it's not a question of identification so much as rooting for him. The whole movie is, I'm going to clean up the streets. Are you?
Well, you want him to get better, I suppose. If you feel, or you're just kind of attracted to like watching him. I don't really have like a like or a dislike. And you feel bad for the character because he's so screwed up. But,
There's this really like cold distance that I have from that one that I don't really care about anybody in the film. I'm just kind of watching it like morbidly, like, wow, these are some terrible things that are happening.
The ending is the only thing that's ever really bothered me, where he becomes a celebrity and is kind of semi-sainted by...
Yeah, I always just found that confusing. You know?
Yeah,
it's
a little... It doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
It's, it works in King of Comedy for me in a way that it doesn't work for me in...
Yeah, I guess King of Comedy is one where you're kind of rooting for horrible people a little bit. Oh, I know one. Comedian. Documentary on Jerry Seinfeld, following Jerry Seinfeld and this
the other guy.
The other guy,
Orly.
right? Orly. I felt really bad for that guy, right? Like I wanted him to win that movie. Because it's Jerry Seinfeld. He has more money than, everybody combined. And like we're supposed to like see him as like the real comedian, and who's this guy? It's like, no, I mean he has a private jet. Like, yeah, you see.
I don't think that's not what that movie's about.
You don't think so?
No.
You're not supposed to like say, oh man, he's got to go back to his roots. He's got to go like have a real stand-up career now, And it's like, no, he just got off a jet that says Jerry Seinfeld on it. Seriously, can we see that?
But it is a really weird movie. Like, I don't think it's about that sort of like. I think that was their idea when they originally set it up, that we're gonna follow a comedian who's made it and one who hasn't.
But you're really supposed to hate the other guy, and that guy's like struggling. And
I don't think you're supposed to hate him. I just think
really
you just do because he's obnoxious. Yeah, I think they just picked the wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go see a stand-up. So maybe it's not really the right.
But that guy is the interesting part of that movie, not the Seinfeld. The Seinfeld stuff is not all that interesting, but that guy's stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
The sleaziest movie I've ever seen, which was Vice Squad. Have you seen this thing? Anybody seen this thing? Oh, you guys have something to rent now. Yeah, Wings Hauser plays a pimp, and at the end of it, you have to it's a cliche, but you have to leap into the shower. I mean, it really is the most repellent movie ever. And his character just blazes a trail, a wide-eyed, screaming, crazed trail through that movie. That's a movie where I think the filmmakers really lost all control.
They lost it.
Like the grips we're directing on the last day, because that movie is nuts.